Hello. How is everybody this evening? Anyway, good evening. Welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. Want to take time to thank our bandwidth sponsor, Patriot Patch Company, patriotpatch.co. Oh, and speaking of, look what I've got on my hat, kids. Ooh. Ooh, 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 ooh. Oh my goodness, it's the new patch of the month for July. Boom.
I like how ethnic that thing is. I really do.
Well, it's true. So
That's a fact.
only the idiots have whitewashed the history and make it seem like only white people are involved in the American Revolution. So.
Well, you forgot to mention Patrick, too.
Well, I don't want to spoil everything. They've got to go to patriotpatch.co and look at the patch of the month to see what's on it. And to see whose famous quote is on it. But it's very, very fitting for July 4th. That's all I'll say on that matter. Anyway, patriotpatch.co. Stop by, check them out. They got all sorts of cool stuff. Patch of the month's amazing. They just knock it out of the park every month. Every month they just continue to amaze us and surprise us. So, also want to thank Sean and the gang over at Firearms Radio Network, giving us a place to hang out every week. So that's firearmsradio.tv. All sorts of fun stuff going on over there. Go over, check out some podcasts that you maybe don't listen to on a regular basis. So, all sorts of different topics. So, I didn't do jack squat other than, unfortunately, because, I got bills to pay and I haven't got my part-time job that I now need to get. I had to sell a couple firearms, so that's what I did this week. In the meantime, though, I stopped by a gun store that I was out by, and that is PT Firearms up in Cross Plains, Wisconsin. So if you're out there, stop by, say hi. Really nice guy, really good local gun store. Been doing it for quite a while, and he was nice enough to give me this. So this is old Peter's cartridge box. So Peters originally started making ammunition in 1887. Somewhere along the lines, they were bought out by Remington. Remington still used the Peters cartridge name. I want to say into the 60s, maybe. So there, I'm just kind of looking to see if I can figure out kind of when this box is from. So it looks like 62 to 68 is when this box would have been in common use. So it's kind of cool. It's still got all of your information on there. It's got your 180 grain soft point core lock. So now you know where core lock came from. It wasn't a Remington thing. This one's 30-06 Springfield. And then it's just the box. I have a fascination for old things. So there is your lot number. So it's kind of cool. But yeah, so it's awesome to have something to kind of sit around and display. And I'm working on getting some shelves set up so I can start displaying some of this old stuff I got. So, but yeah, really nice place. Really good pricing. So yeah, if you're out in Cross Plains, Wisconsin area, stop by, say hi. So it's really important to support your local gun stores, because the one that we had in Sun Prairie that wasn't Cabela's or Walmart, unfortunately has now gone to a kitchen table FFL, because he just couldn't pay the rent on the building that they had. So even if you're buying accessories, gang, make sure you're not doing it on Amazon, or try and pay the little extra, because someday, if you don't help your local gun store out, you're going to have a situation like we do, where they're gone. So, and I mean, he's not completely out of the business, but now he's sitting with a bunch of inventory at his house that he's still trying to sell, that he couldn't sell in the gun store. And so now you've got to try and dance around, everybody's schedules and all that stuff. So because now he's working a full-time job instead of running his gun store. So, and it wasn't a case of high pricing because he was usually right with Cabela's on most everything as far as firearms go. And usually his used stuff was better priced. So same thing goes with your local reloading shops. So that's kind of that. All right, I'm done. Who's next? Looks like Phil or Jim.
I did something that was related to guns and reloading.
What'd you do?
I reclaimed my reloading bench.
I saw that.
It has been inundated with home improvement projects for a while now. And I finally got all the home improvement stuff out of the garage. I got the honey-do list cleared off temporarily, I'm sure. I actually put guns and reloading stuff back on the bench. And as luck would have it, the day after I got all that stuff done, the package from FW Arms shows up. So I haven't actually reloaded anything yet, but I could. Look, baby steps. Baby steps. Although, in my defense, I have to say that, you know, when you're looking down the barrel of having to spend like $600, $700, $800 on the low end to replace your front door on a house, and dude, like cheap front doors are several $100s. Expensive ones are stupid.
Yep.
But my wife came across an opportunity to get a secondhand. It needed work, but a secondhand, really high-end door for $100.
Wow.
So I think she priced it and said it's about a $1,500 door, brand new.
Nice.
But it needed sanding and staining and new varnish. I mean, we stripped it down to bare wood and started over.
Is it wood or is it fiberglass, Phil?
It's mahogany.
Ooh, that ain't wood. That's mahogany. There's a difference.
Well, it's a very, very beautiful, very high-end door that needed a lot of love and TLC, and my wife and I spent 3 days sanding and staining and 4 coats of urethane and then flipping the door and doing it all over again on the other side. And the 4th day we hung it.
Good on you.
But now that that's done, I have a happy wife and an empty reloading bench, so I can finally get on to that next project. So that's what I did in Guns and Reloading.
Jason, did you do anything in Guns and Reloading, my friend?
Well, rumor has it, you know, I did one thing because Bleepin' Dusty got on here and was blabbing about me forgetting my ammo when we went to Nevada.
So wait, you're saying you didn't forget your ammo, or you're just pissed because he outed you?
I'm pissed because he outed me and I wasn't even on the podcast. I was working.
Oh, God. You're so easy, Jason.
It's all right. I shot his ammo. And then Dusty told me he met one of the people that wrote the Quick Loads program. He is a veteran, and he was over at the PX on his base, and he got to talk. He was over in the gun section, and he got to talking with the guy, and he got an invite to go to his shop and get a first-hand lesson on how to operate Quick Loads. Little bastard. So I told him he needs to take him up on that.
You bet.
And then one of our listeners, dang it, I knew I should have wrote his name down. Whose birthday party did I go to this weekend? John Kelly. So John Kelly is originally from Australia. He moved to California about a year ago. Sorry, I forgot your name, John. Been a long day. He invited me to his birthday party on Sunday. So
I saw that.
I went down there and met him and his wife, and real nice people. Met a whole bunch of gun people down there. Had a good time. I think that was about it for me.
I think you guys need to move up to Idaho right quick. The low end of California is fixing to fall off.
Yeah.
We can only be so lucky.
But we don't want to take good guys. We got some good guys down there around Los Angeles. A couple of them are personal friends of yours, Mike. Scott
Wow.
Kelly and John Super.
Yeah.
San Diego and out in the desert of SoCal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, out in the high desert. So
Yeah, that'd be Kelly.
yeah, I'm glad they're okay. I just wish they'd move out of there and then California would fall off
Exactly.
into the ocean.
It will. With or without him, it will. That it for you, buddy?
Yes, sir.
I don't think Travis is available right now. He's taking care of a personal matter. And the only thing I can lay claim to was unloading my truck to go to for gun stuff, unloading my gun and shooting equipment out of the truck, ran up to the heart of enemy country up in New Jersey City, New Jersey. Came back home, started putting gun stuff back in the truck. And it turns out I got a package in the mail with some Tempolac in it, and that's for the annealing of the brass. Well, yesterday I got off my butt and I set up the annealies, and I recorded video of it, not the setting up, but the what I'm about to tell you. I annealed a coffee can full, a plastic coffee can, blue Maxwell House coffee can. I'm going to guesstimate they hold about 400 rounds of brass. I don't know.
I didn't know you could anneal coffee cans.
I did an anneal coffee can. I annealed in a coffee can full of brass. The brass itself, you knucklehead. Yeah, okay. You want to split hairs, Mikey? Your turn's coming, okay?
Sweet.
Yeah, but anyway, I actually set it up, adjusted the torch, adjusted the timing, so on and so forth. And what I really am impressed with is how precise it is. It depends on me for accuracy. It depends on me to adjust it to become precise. But those cases, you know, you guys have ever seen discoloration because of heat. Well, these cases got that. But I was able to control it to the point where the discoloration did not go beyond the intersection of the body and shoulder. So the body of the case didn't get too hot. Too hot to touch, but still, it didn't get too hot. At least I sure as hell hope not. Anyway, the reason I'm talking, I recorded video of it, but YouTube is not cooperating. So the video does exist. It's right here on my iPad, but we're going to find another place for it, and Mikey will make sure to put the link in and link up for it. When don't we have a couple other places that we can host stuff?
Yep.
I need to get onto that.
Yeah, but we need to edit that. We just need to go through and make sure it's edited and everything before we upload it. So
okay. Well, you're welcome to do what you want. There's a few shots in there that I wish didn't happen, but no, I didn't run around my bare butt. But the point is, it's just kind of boring, some of it. You know what I mean? But anyway, so I'm going to say that I annealed 400 cases in about 27 minutes. I recorded the whole video.
nice.
It's like, I can't believe how fast it is. That's way faster, and these cases are dry too, by the way. That's way faster than the first time I did it with 50 cases. And a propane torch holding it by hand over top a pan full of water. That's Stone Age stuff. This annealies is the way to go.
Yeah.
Wish Travis was here to let him hear all this. He's got an induction annealer coming. Annie annealer, I think it is. And it's going to put a coil down over the electric coil down over the case, whereas I'm actually using a propane torch.
Did he order that?
I believe he did, Jason.
A rich bastard.
Well, I will tell you what, these machines, they go for $275 to $375.
I think his goes for quite a bit more than that.
Yes, it does.
You may well be right. I spent money like that when I was working hard.
Yeah, but he's
You
got
do-
little kids, and we were always poor when we had little kids. So
Yeah. Well, you got a few bucks in your pocket nowadays. That's what you're actually saving up to move to Idaho for. I know.
you betcha.
Good thing you're on the east side of the San Andreas Fault up there, and well north of it too.
North of it, yeah.
Yeah, his nearest threat is San Francisco, not the Faults.
I know where Jason lives. I've actually seen his house on Google.
Weirdo.
So, a couple of comments about annealing. Dramatic reduction in springback after annealing. And
Yep.
for those who don't know what springback is, basically what that amounts to is whenever you work brass or any metal, when you like resize it, so you push it down and compress it to resize it, some of it will, to a certain point, it will expand back out again. And so annealing kind of helps limit that. The other option or the other benefit to that is when you actually fire the cartridge, it controls that aspect of springback too. So.
Well, there's actually 4 workings of the brass. Every time you fire it and reload it, you have expansion, contraction in the chamber, contraction and expansion in the reloading die.
Uh-huh.
So all
And
that
if
movement.
it's a straight wall case and you're flaring it, then it's actually 6.
Yes, right. That's right. That's right. A lot of work in that brass.
And I did want to point out, I hate that I can't remember who it was, but somebody on y'all's show, it wouldn't surprise me if it was Jeremy Rowland back in the day, but he made the point that annealing your brass every time brings with it an additional benefit because of consistency.
Yes.
Like even if it doesn't eliminate the spring back, if you anneal your brass every single firing, then all your brass has been freshly annealed. It all should have fairly consistent spring back, which goes down his rabbit hole of neuroses with making everything as consistent as possible.
Yep, you're right.
If you're looking for tenths of tenths, then annealing your brass every single time, or even if you just establish a protocol where you say, I fire this 3 times, then I anneal it. Whatever it is, as long as you control all those variables.
Well, Phil,
I don't, because I make my ammo a lot faster and dirtier than that, but it's impressive nonetheless.
Phil, I got a question for you. Actually, a statement, I should say. Jeremy shoots F class. It's called prone bench rest. It was funny because I put up our search question on YouTube, how to use Tempelac. My first video was from a guy that shoots 300 Win Mag bench rest. And he anneals every case, every time. Every firing gets annealed. The point is, it's consistency. Just like you were talking about, like Jeremy's talking about. He advises, and I won't anneal my 308 brass because it's just a hunting rifle, the rifle that I have that ammo in. But what I will probably do is wind up annealing my brass every time on the 280 AI because it's the most accurate rifle I have right now.
Lots of fun.
See, people wonder why when I tell them that reloading, the more you learn about it, the more complicated it gets. This is why. Because when I first started, I knew nothing about annealing. So it was like a whole variable I didn't care about because I didn't know. And I guess not it gets more complicated, but like the more you know, the more rabbits chase down holes. Maybe that's a better way of putting it. Like the more you learn about this hobby, the more little intricacies you learn about, the more places you can stick your nose.
Mm-hmm.
Ignore the sound of two girls screaming in the next room. It's
Sweet.
my kid or friend.
I don't know if that's something I should ignore.
Well, I don't hear the sound of bones breaking or, like deep sobbing. So I'm assuming they're just being little girls. But I have a tourniquet on hand if need be.
There you go. All right. So, gang, Travis hasn't made it back yet, so we'll skip him for now. And we'll go on to the cartridge corner. So tonight, since it is episode 260, and there's a few people who've given us crap for not doing calibers associated with the episode number, surprise. Tonight, 260 Rem. All right. So when Sweden upgraded their military service rifle, thousands of surplus 6.5 by 55 Swede Mauser rifles were exported and sold abroad. The cartridge itself held an almost mystical appeal, an extremely long, sleek, deadly-looking projectile housed in what looked like a cartridge case of reasonable powder capacity. Although U.S. hunters had access to the Swedish Mauser, ammunition was, for a long time, hard to obtain. When American factory-produced ammunition did finally become available, it was downloaded, layeredized, to such an extent that performance was abysmal. Dang it. This was mostly based on a distrust of Swedish metallurgy. That was easy to say. Regardless, U.S. handloaders were, like other handloaders around the world, loading 6.5 by 55 to full power. That's because we rock. We're not chicken shits. Several hunters praised the performance of the 6.5 in magazine articles, which added to its allure. When U.S., Australian, and New Zealand competitive target shooters experimented with 6.5 bore, the results were outstanding. The 6.5 was capable of producing a low bullet drop and low wind drift with minimal recoil. Accuracy was, with the most basic of 140 grain projectiles, was excellent. That said, a number of competitive shooters were, and still are, great fans of the .308 Winchester case design. As it is a common practice for serious competitive shooters to utilize Wildcat cartridge designs to obtain optimum performance, knocking down the .308 to 6.5 was predictable and a natural progression. The 6.508 Wildcat produced identical velocities to the 6.5 Swede. 6.5 by 55. I always like calling it the 6.5 Swede, but whatever. Nevertheless, benefits of the Wildcat chambering included greater control of chamber tolerances during reamer design, along with readily available, inexpensive U.S. brass. Wildcat cartridge could also be housed in a magazine-fed short-action rifles, although this was not a main concern. By the end of the 80s, a small number of competitive shooters were enjoying the benefits of the 6.5-08. Loaded with 139 grain Lapua Sanar projectile. Mid-90s, this Wildcat had become well-known in competition circles, so Wildcat chambering was also beginning to appear in hunting rifles. As a typical example, the 6.5-08 was an ideal step-up when rebailing worn-out .243 Winchesters. Wildcat was well-suited to short action, utilized heavier and deeper penetrating projectiles than the .243, but a similar flat trajectory along with mild recoil. 96, Arthur B. Elfin. Excuse me. Director of A-Square Cartridges USA applied to have the 6.5-8 standardized by SAMI as the 6.5-8 A-Square. A-Square was a member of SAMI, Sporting Arms and Ammunition Manufacturers Institute, but for unknown reasons, the processing of Elfin's application was very slow. 97 Remington, also a SAMI member, made a similar application to standardize the 6.5-8 as the 260 Remington. Shortly thereafter, the Remington design was accepted and the cartridge dimensions standardized. Although the A-Square lost the naming rights to the Wildcat, the odd situation was not turned into a major drama. Like other SAMI members, A-Square continued to focus on the primary goal of safe design of firearms and cartridges. Remington released the 260 in 1997 as a hunting cartridge. It was initially chambered in the Model 7, followed by the M700. '97 marketing campaign promoted the 260 as being a compact, short-action cartridge producing less recoil than the 270, win, yet higher downrange energies. The stainless synthetic Model 7 utilized a short, lightweight action coupled with a 20-inch light barrel. If you've never shot a Model 7, you should. And if you don't own one, you should try and get one. I would love to have one someday, and I will. Regardless of the 6.5-08's popularity for target shooting, the 260 was not offered in the Remington 40X target rifle, nor was any match-grade factory ammunition introduced. Not surprised, because it's Remington. While the 260 achieved limited success, it did not deliver optimum performance. Well, they just explained why. Remington factory ammo for the 260 produced low velocities in the Model 7, because it's a shorter barrel, and for factory ammo users, killing performance was somewhat mediocre. In fact, performance of the factory combination was not unlike the already anemic loads available with the 6.5x55. For hand loaders, the 260 was not able to give any more performance than was already available from the 6.5x55. Nevertheless, for some hunters, the lightweight Remington rifles, both the M7 and M700, offered several desirable features in comparison to the Sporterized ex-military Swedish rifles. In this group of hunters, it is this group of hunters that utilize the 260 most. Currently, the 260 has a small following among hunters worldwide. Competitive shooting, both the 6.5-08 and the 260 have, to a large extent, been superseded by the 6.5-08 Ackley improved, or 260 Ackley improved. Although both the 6.5-08 and the 260 are the same cartridges, it's important readers be aware of the fact that in target rifles, there are several slight variations in chamber dimensions according to individual customer specifications. A target rifle marked 260 should be able to safely fire Remington factory ammo and hand loads using 7mm 8 brass, while rifles marked 6.58 on occasion may have minimum dimension chambers, which can potentially produce dangerous pressures using ordinary components. So that's kind of not really surprising when you get something like that. 260 Rem has a slightly shorter but slightly wider case than the Swedish 55mm case. Ultimately, the 260 and 6.5x55 produce the same velocities. So once again, Americans decided to Americanize a European cartridge, just because that's what we do. Sorry, gotta stand for a second. So, 260 Rem has given hunters access to the 6.5 bore in over-the-counter manner. Factory sporting rifles and theoretically suitable ammunition are readily available. Remington rifles have desirable features. The M700 in stainless is able to stand far greater long-term abuse and neglect than the Sporterized Swede. The M700 can be built lighter than the Swede, although the extreme version, the Model 7, can suffer accuracy problems due to the exceptionally lightweight barrel. Makes perfect sense. Light and short. So you're losing speed, and if it's lightweight, you're going to get some issues with that, especially if you're, target shooting and you're pumping a lot of rounds through. So, for factory ammo users, this cartridge does not deliver optimum performance with Remington factory ammo. I'm shocked. Killing power is far closer to 30-30 than the 270 Win that is often used as comparison. For hand loaders, performance can be enhanced considerably. That said, as previously stated in the 6.5.55 performance test, hunters must take care not to become overconfident in the abilities of the 6.5mm bore. The mild 6.5s give fast killing at close ranges, but definitely lose the ability to produce wide wounding at ranges beyond 200-250 yards when using hunting projectiles. Light 120 grain bullets hand loaded to between 29-50 produce fast kills on lighter to medium game, but most 120 grain bullets produce shallow penetration. The exception to this is the Barnes 120 grain TSX. 130 grain bullets hand loaded to 28-50 neither have the high sectional density and ballistic coefficient of the 140 grain bullet or the high velocity achieved from hand loading 120 grains. Performance is identical to budget 270 Win factory ammo at 2,900 feet per second. 140 grain bullet loaded between 2,750 and 2,800 feet per second is the most versatile bullet weight for the 260 offering the best balance of wounding versus penetration. That said, kills beyond 200 yards can be slow, while conventional projectiles, regardless of sectional density, often fail to produce deep penetration. So, So yeah, kind of. They're saying beyond 200 yards, you should be. This is their recommendation on this, and this is all from. Oh, crikey.
Ballistic studies.
Yes. Thank you. So they recommend at ranges beyond 200 yards, the hunter should aim to break the foreleg bones of game. Both rear lung and neck shots can often result in very slow killing at extended ranges. So there's a bunch more. We'll have it in the show notes like usual. So, but yeah, definitely. Now the nice thing is this doesn't include all the brand new bullets that have come out for 6.5 that they've got for the Creedmoor. There's quite a few more, and I'm sure you can probably get some different stuff going on. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things that, you know, the rifles are kind of an advantage, and that's one of the reasons why the cartridge is there. But it's a unique cartridge, but it's probably one of those that was a more along the lines of a answer in search of no question. So. All right. So next, Travis, what you do?
Well, I went and did a 3-gun shoot on Saturday.
Yep. How'd you do?
Well, our president got a new job in Oregon, so he left. So we have some new people running it. Yeesh. And just by chance, we had the most people turn out we ever had. And there was probably 16 people on each squad. And several of those were new guys, and nobody set a par time. So for guys who know in 3-gun, there's a par time. So basically we had a grandfather and his grandson who each took about 16 minutes to shoot a 180-second course, and no one stopped them. So me and a couple friends got kind of bored and annoyed, so we left and we got Indian food. So I did not shoot the final stage, but I think I would have been in my usual spot if I stayed, but Indian food was more appealing at that time.
Can't go wrong with curry.
No, I love it. I think, I got my email notification that my Annie has shipped, and I will be getting it on Friday. So that's pretty exciting. I did also get a new holster from Concealment Solutions. And this may or may not fit a SIG 365 X5.
You mean XL?
No, the X5.
I didn't know they had an X5 version. I knew they had the XL, but I didn't know they had an X5.
Yeah, I think the X5's their competition one.
Interesting.
Did you pick it up in person?
No, I had it shipped. I need to go down there and see those guys.
You do.
I don't know if anyone listens. They have a new podcast, the Gun Dudes and Jason Christensen and Full Lead Taco. They have a new podcast called Concealed Taco Dudes. So on their the one that just came out, they went, I forget what it's called, but it's kind of like bowling, but with axes. Throwing
throwing or something like that.
Yeah. So they posted some pictures on the Concealment Solutions Instagram of our vitals targets, and that's what they were throwing their hatchets at.
Nice.
So Mike said if I come down, he'll take me to throw some hatchets, or Jason did, sorry.
Cool.
I think that's all I did.
All right.
Oh, you know what? I did after the last podcast when we were talking about the Lee Loadall. I pulled it back out, set it up on the bench, and I used it to load up some slugs.
How'd that go?
Good. It's been a while since I used that, so it took a couple minutes to figure out what I was doing.
Yeah. No, that's good.
So yeah, I loaded up, I think 15 slugs.
Now, did you use a specific wad, or did you just use a regular wad for the slugs?
I went with the recipe that I using the Lee 7/8 ounce key slugs.
Yep.
So it calls for just double A hole, what am I looking for? The double A 12 wads.
Mm-hmm. So just the standard regular shot wads.
Correct, with a HS6 powder.
Nice. Yeah, that's the thing with loading slugs. For the most part, unless it's just a bow, you can, especially if you're using it in a smoothbore, most of the time you actually can get away with using a regular shot wad for loading up your slugs.
I did at work we have an iron worker, and one of the attachments on the side is for punching holes through metal.
Mm-hmm.
So I've taken Rockstar the cardboard box, the little half box that Rockstars come in.
Yeah.
I've taken those to work and put in the top and bottom die. That's a 21/32, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I cut out my own little spacers.
Oh, so you've got
some cardboard spacers.
Yeah.
And I find one of those, and then the slug on top puts it at the perfect height when you put the crimp and stuff in.
Nice. Now, are you still regularly crimping those, or did you get a roll crimper?
I got a roll crimper, but I bought a real cheap, crappy one, and it's worthless. Yeah. I need the Reloaders Network. What I want to do is get full lead bacon. Bacon, loads of bacon over at the Reloaders Network. He sells some of those Russian slug molds.
Yeah. And
I want to get some of those because everyone's reporting really good accuracy with those.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get that because the Lee, especially the Lee 1 ounce slugs, it's just a Hail Mary. The 7/8 ounce seem to get a little bit better accuracy, but everyone's reporting that these Russian slugs, when you use the correct wad that they sell with those, are getting really good accuracy. So at some point I want to pick up some of those.
There you go. All right. So, first question for the night. It's more of a comment than a question. From Stephen A. He was listening to our episode. We were talking about different twist rates and barrel lengths and stuff for the ARs. Said, just listening to your latest episode, you were talking about your 10-inch barrel being pretty accurate at 25 yards. I also built out a 10.5 AR-15 and used it as a service rifle. Used it in a service rifle competition this past January. It was damn cold out, -20 Celsius. So I'm guessing
that's chilly.
I'm guessing Stefan is not in the States. I'm guessing he's probably in Canada. And that is one of the few things that Canada has done right is you don't need a special license just to have a shorter barrel. Now, it's an AR, so it's still restricted, but it doesn't matter what the length of the barrel is. So that's kind of nice. They got that going for them. So said it was -20 Celsius with a crosswind of about 15 kilometers per hour, which is about 10 miles an hour. So decent wind. Using a 3 to 18 by 40 Bushnell AR-223 scope. With this setup, I was able to put 5 rounds in an 18-inch group at 500 yards. I know 18 is a pretty big area, but if there wasn't a gusting crosswind, I probably would have done better. using a 69 grain Hornady boat tail hollow point with 25 grains of CFE 223. Hasn't chronographed them, but I suspect they're leaving the barrel about 2,500 feet per second. So basically, these SBR AR-15s are pretty darn good, and like you say, a ton of fun on their short range stuff. So he's using a 10.5 inch barrel to shoot 500 yards, and you got an 18-inch group. I'd take that, because you got to figure he's losing twist rate, so he's losing bullet stability, and he's losing speed. So, yeah, not a fun thing to be shooting in weather-wise.
No, not at 20 below Celsius, because 0 degrees is 32 degrees Celsius. I'm sorry, the other way around. 32 degrees Fahrenheit equals 0 degrees Celsius. And I think that would be about 50 below.
I'm working on it.
So am I.
Mm-hmm. 4 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. And then you add in that 10 mile an hour wind, so that makes probably feels like negative 20 Fahrenheit.
It's damn cold.
Yeah, I've shot in that. It's not fun to begin with.
So have I.
And I can't imagine shooting a competition in it.
Skin on my legs was freezing when I had long dawns and blue jeans on, and the skin on my legs was freezing at 5 below. No thanks, no more, never again.
Do you even know what cold is, Jason?
Jason
yeah, when
does.
I walked into the beer cooler at the 7-Eleven.
Pretty good.
It's cold.
In your face, Travis.
Jason does. I'm pretty sure Phil doesn't. Currently.
Yeah.
Travis, about an hour from me, is one of the coldest places in the nation from time to time because
Really?
of the way the mountains are. It's a pass.
From time to time, what is that, like once every century or what?
Well, have you ever heard of the Donner Party?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, it's that pass.
It's that pass. It gets cold, and
Yeah,
the snow gets.
I heard they ate really well. Yes, I know. You're referring to.
Interesting cuisine, though. So,
Yes.
anyway, moving right along and back to normal stuff. So one of the things that I would see that would be an issue with that temperature would be, depending on when he loaded up that ammo, you could have some pressure variance from that. I don't know if CFE 223 is one of the newer non-tensive tempers. Yeah, non-temperature sensitive powders. So I don't think it's part of the Enduron line. So I don't think it is.
It's not, and it's a ball powder. I mean, they tend to be a little more temperature sensitive than like stick.
So when you take all of that into account, and if he's shooting service rifle competition, that's not something that he can. I'm trying to remember. Bolivar used to talk about this all the time on Modern Rifle Radio because he used to shoot quite a bit. But he's not gonna. It's not a bench rest competition. Most of it's freehand. I think the 500 yards you might be able to go prone. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But even if you're prone, you're talking about using your magazine. Well, I don't even know because he wouldn't have a magazine long enough. Yeah, you're basically trying to use the magazine as a bipod. Providing they could have a magazine that's long enough, but because they have the magazine restrictions there in Canada, hey. So all depends on what the rules are for that specific thing. So there is the ability to get regular size magazines and you can pin them, so you could actually have that length. But that's the type of thing. So, but yeah, definitely a huge challenge. Paul in the chat said 500 yards is prone slinged up. So, so yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely think that 500 yards is prone. And it is possible that you could shoot offhand, but it all depends. I mean, if you do known distance for Appleseed, that's usually 400 yards, and that's standing offhand or kneeling. So, you know, I mean, it's possible depending on how much they train and practice. So, but the 10-inch barrel just kind of handicaps you a little bit, so that's kind of impressive. Okay, so this was another one of those. This is a question. So, working on a 350 Legend build, and the brake I've decided to has a the brake I've selected has a bore of 34375. I understand that won't work, but what would be a safe overbore number for this caliber?
Well, first, have you guys been keeping up on anything with the 350 Legend and seeing what's kind of people are finding with it?
No.
I think, the Military Arms Channel was one of the first to point this out. I know there's another YouTube channel, Eagle Eye Shooting, I think pointed this out too, but Winchester White Box has, I forget what instead of being like a 358, 357 diameter projectile, Winchester White Box, they're finding are undersized. So they're coming out, I think was 0.355. So what, if you go over to the Military Arms Channel, I think he's got some, a blog about it. So they're actually having a lot of problems with the 350 Legend right now.
They would, since the factory's loading undersized bullets. They use 9mm bullets as opposed to the 357 diameter bullet.
Yeah, if I remember right, some of the places were really excited though, because I haven't been keeping up on it, but I think there's, some states you have to have certain size projectile for hunting, and the 350 Legend was supposed to take care of some of that. But when they find that the projectiles are actually under that, coming out at 355, that kind of defeats the purpose of using that in hunting applications, is one. Military Arms Channel has some pictures where he's got cartridges out of the same box stacked up, and you can see they're all varying in their overall length. The accuracy's been horrible, and I was just keeping up on it when it was mostly talking about Winchester White Box stuff. I don't know if other companies were doing that, but if that's the case, you can use a 9mm brake.
Well,
you should look at some of the articles on it right now and see. Military Arms Channel is the one I'm familiar with, and he's got some good stuff on it.
he does.
First thought on that: anybody who expects accuracy out of Winchester White Box needs to have their flipping head examined. Seriously.
This is the channel of the show that says that we can build our ammunition better than factory ammo.
Yeah, but I think their groups were ridiculous. I know they were at least 6. They might have been 6-inch groups or
At
it's
100?
Winchester White Box.
Yeah.
If you expect any sort of accuracy and consistency out of Winchester White Box, you need to have your head examined. Period. Full stop. End of story. There is nothing that ever has been explained in Winchester's entire history of making White Box that says, hey guys, this is an accurate ammunition.
There goes that sponsorship.
But you wouldn't expect them to be giving you undersized stuff either, though.
True. But that sounds like either a clerical problem or a financial problem or something, because that's a stupid decision. You don't put 9mm bullets in a 357 case.
So here's the
Don't do
problem.
it.
Winchester has never, ever released the actual specifications for the 350. They will not release the actual measurements on the brass. They will not release the actual measurements for the bullets. So every single piece of information that's been gotten has been gotten by buying ammunition and measuring it.
That's not reliable, considering what you guys are saying.
Yeah, I'm looking at a picture right now, and Max got calipers on a projectile that he pulled, and it's coming out at actually 0.354.
That's 9mm ammo.
No, that's smaller than 9mm ammo.
True. The nominal diameter is 0.355. I know that. It sounds to me like they put the most junior, most inexperienced machine operators on making this white box ammo.
Yeah, but I think the one of the big concerns about his stuff, his posts, were referring to hunting purposes. Diameter needed to be 0.357, and that's what the 350 Legend was supposed to come out as, so people could use it for hunting. But when the projectiles are coming out at 0.355 or under, that voids it for people using it for hunting purposes. I think what he initially started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
There are people out there in the law enforcement or the conservation end of the game, game enforcement. There are people out there that would take a micrometer into the field with them. If your bullet is not right, you're going to go to jail.
Yep. So it is listed in SAMI. And in SAMI, they list 0.3570 minus 0030 as the bullet diameter. So,
So the bullet could be 3 thousandths undersize. Could be conceivably clear down to 354.
yep. So theoretically, according to that, and like I said, Winchester's never released everything. I don't think they will. This is according to SAMI, and this was revised 4/9/2019. And that's what it says. So,
I mean, it's a cartridge that I'm interested in, but I guess you never want to be buy the first run of stuff, huh? You always wait for a year or two for something to come out.
something like that. Chamber pressure max is 55,000 psi.
That's pretty hot for that big of a bore.
Well, especially considering it's technically a straight wall. So,
Mm-hmm.
I am going to put the link in for Sammy's listing. So, but yeah, I tried to get both at SHOT and NRA. I tried to get specs from Winchester, and they flat out said we're not releasing that. So,
Winchester,
Jason, go ahead. Jason had a question. Sorry, Jason.
Winchester Deer Season XP ammo, they specify 0.357
yeah,
for what that's worth.
that's the premium stuff. That's the only one that I saw.
I think for us hand loaders, it's still a good option because then you can control every aspect of it, you know, and get exactly what you're wanting out of it. And I'm super interested in it.
Mm-hmm. So the one thing that I need to email Jeremy back and ask him is, he said it's got a bore of 343s, but I'm wondering if that was the lands or the grooves. So
No, it's neither. It's the bore of the muzzle brake itself.
So he doesn't. Okay.
I've got an answer for him, but I'm waiting for everyone else to finish up.
Oh, I was thinking he was talking about. I didn't realize he was talking about a muzzle brake, because I don't see the benefit of using a muzzle brake on that. But
Oh, that's two answers actually.
so I thought he was talking about for hand loading.
No.
So
If that bullet were to come out of that muzzle, come out of the bore and hit that muzzle brake, it would blow it off.
yes, it would. I'm going to
Well-
add muzzle into that for clarification.
It's also spelled with an A, just an AKE.
But he wants to take a break. He
Yeah.
likes Kit Kat. So
Anyway, Jeremy, the answer to your question is there's two answers. Mike gave you the first one. That would take the break off altogether. The second answer I've got for you, and as long as your bore is concentric with the muzzle brake, and muzzle brake is concentric with your bore, a bore diameter of your muzzle brake would be should be no smaller than 0.360, and might be better if you had it on up to shade closer to 0.365 inches.
Yeah.
Just a little tiny bit. The 360 bore diameter of for your muzzle brake, that's pretty close. It only gives you 1/1000th and a half either side of the bullet, all the way around. 365 will give you a good bit more. And since we're not suppressing that particular rifle, then you can afford the extra space.
Also, you could, if you knew a machinist, I don't know what the thread pitch on that barrel would be. I would assume it's 5/8 by.
It would almost have to be 5/8, Travis, because 1/2 inch is so
Right,
close that the barrel would be paper thin at the threads.
But what's the thread pitch though, Jim? If it's 5/8,
5/8 extra fine. That's like 5/8 28. Yeah,
5/8 28.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You could always take a 30 cal and have a machinist bore it out for you. If you can't find something you're looking for, that's an option.
Well, that's why I come up with the numbers 360 to 365.
Yeah.
So, in the chat, Reloading Press mentioned about Eagle Eye Shooting has a warning video explaining case head separations with the Winchester. So I went and found that. I'll include that link too. It's over on Reloaders Network, and it's the 350 Legend 145 grain FMJs, overcrimped, and so.
Yeah, Eagle Eye Shooting, I've watched several of his videos on the 350 Legend, and he seems to be one of those guys out there right now who's really doing a lot of research and shooting of that cartridge. And one of his last videos, he actually cast some zinc projectiles,
Yeah, I saw that.
loaded up, and shot those out of there at like 400 or 500 yards.
120 grain zinc projectiles,
Can you say penetration to the max?
right?
I would bet that'd penetrate that bucket of sand.
I don't think he was getting very good anything with those, actually, if I remember right.
Probably not. Because remember what Mike said was the Sammy spec on the pressure is 55,000 psi. That's high for a bore that big.
Mm-hmm. So,
And a rifle that small, I should say.
oh, and by the way, that's a 16-inch test barrel, just so you know, on Sammy's. So, so yeah, that's kind of another one of those warning things. Anytime there's a new cartridge out, especially if it hasn't been a Wildcat first, which this one really didn't appear to be, you're going to have growing pains, so you really need to pay attention. And the unfortunate thing is you've got factory ammo out there seems to be causing some issues, and it could be a number of things. I personally I don't have a rifle. I haven't shot any of it. I haven't done any testing, so I can't say one or the other. But it just kind of keys back into one of the reasons why I personally load, and also what you need to be careful of. So, but that's kind of thing. And there's other companies making that 350, making firearms in that 350 Legend chambering. So, and I think there's other people making ammo now for it too. So there's other options out there. But yeah, The only reason I ever buy Winchester white box is if I need brass, and I feel like unloading it to reload it. So, but I don't even do that anymore because I try not to load cheap brass. So
There goes that sponsorship.
yep. So
We sponsor ourselves. That and the Patreons.
that's right. That way I can say stuff like this without having any problems.
That's right.
So
Can you imagine if we did have a sponsorship? We'd lose listeners. I'll tell you that right now.
no, because if we get any sponsors, and we're always willing to entertain sponsorships, but the thing is just if you want an idea of how I would do it, is kind of like how We Like Shooting does it. First off, they don't just take anybody out of the blue. They get the products, they test the heck out of them and find out, shortcomings and stuff like that. Yes, they will give that manufacturer first opportunity to rectify whatever things they find, but they also report that, and they flat out tell all of their sponsors, hey, this is how we operate. If you make a crappy product, we're going to tell people it's a crappy product. So, and that's kind of what, if I ever got serious about finding sponsors, that's kind of the way we would approach it. So, but thankfully we have an awesome group of Patreons and we don't need to do that. So,
Amen.
but yeah, and one of the comments in the chat, I do like how you guys don't run commercials. Yeah, I love not having to do commercials because it takes away from this. So, but all right, so I think we've beaten that into glue. On to the next thing. Hey guys, I have inherited some Weatherby brass varying from 257 to 460, some of which are in original boxes. I would like to sell or trade them for reloading equipment I can use. I have no idea where to start of what the value of what I have is worth. Any help in pointing me in the right direction would be great. Thank you, Tyler. So the reason I brought this up, along with the next question, which is kind of a follow-up to this, it's always a good thing to let people know that if you acquire stuff that you can't use, how can you figure out what it's worth? And more importantly, how can you get rid of that so you can get stuff that you can use? So obviously this gentleman does not have anything in the Weatherby, so that's not going to do him any good. However, being that it's Weatherby brass, as long as it's in good shape and it's not overfired, it does have quite a bit of value. So what I suggested to him in the response is start doing some shopping. Essentially is what you want to do. Look around, see what other people, especially brass. Brass is an easy thing to figure out. You just do a couple of Google searches or DuckDuckGo searches and find out what people are selling brass for, especially like Weatherby and stuff like that. Now, if you have some 7.7 or Osaka brass, probably going to have a little harder time figuring out what the price value is. But, given that this is a, reasonably common stuff, he should be able to figure, do that out. And then what I told him is told him to go to the Reloading Room buy and sell on MeWe and join up, and that's where he can sell it.
Good job, Mickey. Good job. Go ahead, Jason. Sorry.
I think Jason just wants free brass. Just send it to him.
I don't have a Weatherby, but Chris Sharp commented, sounds like he needs to just buy a Weatherby. Problem solved.
Weatherby's from 257 all the way to 460.
I'm guessing this young gentleman is not independently wealthy. So unless somebody out there makes a Weatherby platform with interchangeable barrels that are inexpensive, I'm guessing that's probably not a realistic solution.
Yeah, but Mike, we're the great enablers.
Right. I totally absolutely recommend buying a crap ton of Weatherby rifles.
Listen, I don't think we're can call ourselves that until we can convince that cheap SOB right there to buy that 338.
Here it comes. I saw it coming.
Hey, Phil, if you do get called up, that's overtime. There's your 338 Lapua money.
I don't know if you're aware of this, Mike, but I don't make that much on overtime.
Phil,
I am-
you're a federal
Oh,
employee. You make gobs of money.
Time
You
out.
don't do anything. You just make money. What are you doing today, Phil? Making money.
Listen, sir. See, funny thing, when somebody tells you that the average federal employee salary is X amount, it means that there's people above that and people below that. And I'm below. I'm on the wrong end of that metric.
Well, I've already tried to help you out on this. I've got dies sitting right there waiting for you.
Oh,
What more do you need?
What more?
Phil?
Yeah, what more do you need?
Instead of dies, if I just go out and buy a couple $1,000 freaking rifle to shoot to use them.
Try 4,000.
Wait a minute.
And don't forget the scope.
Yeah, let's not forget the scope because you're
That
going
makes-
to at
that
least
makes it
2
6.
grand on top.
Listen.
That makes it 6.
He can just Kentucky windage it for a while. He's just got to get that rifle.
Skip a couple of mortgage payments. Don't feed the girls. The girls need to go on a diet anyway. They're fine. They'll be okay.
Does
Get
anybody
it.
Wait a minute.
know his wife's phone number so I can ask her to smack him?
Jason, did you just call? No, you didn't seriously just do that, did you?
What?
You just said there's a
No.
woman who needs to lose weight. Are you really that effing stupid?
The girls. Not his wife. Girls.
He's saying 2. He's saying more than 1.
I thought he had more than one kid. Sorry.
I have
Hey.
more-
I didn't realize he was
Oh, Jason, you are in the doghouse for the rest of your life.
Here. I got
Jason,
I got a good idea for you, Phil.
right now, it wouldn't take a lot of to me talking your wife into smacking you.
Oh, she'll do it for free.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, right now, this is just like lame yap.
Her first name is Kathy, Phil.
I'm aware. I wasn't going to completely out her on the podcast.
Hey,
Hey,
Winch.
I think I know what Phil's doing.
Hey,
though.
Winch. Oh, my God. This guy.
I think Phil's growing his beard out. You know how those people grow their hair out and then they cut it and they sell it? I think Phil's growing his beard out so he can cut it and sell that.
Okay, if I could get a 330 Lapua for a beard, I would take the beard off for that. But I don't know anybody's going to pay me 6 G's for this.
I'm sure that smells like Cheetos and stuff too.
Sure it doesn't. Although, yesterday my wife and daughter did decide it'd be really fun to braid 2 braids into my beard. My wife said it made me look like a pirate.
That's awesome. Where's the pictures of that?
Under lock and key. Tell you what, somebody buy me a 338 and I will hand you the pictures. Smart Alex. Move along. That's enough fun at my expense.
Moving along. So the next question is a follow-up to Tyler's. This is from Randy. And it's more of a statement, but there's a question attached. While shopping the used reloading equipment category on eBay, it's eBay, I was amazed and a little pissed off. What in the world are these people thinking? They have opening bids on used dies and presses which are equal to the current retail price. In some case, folks have purchased items at a higher cost than new retail prices. What the heck? Are used dies worth more than new ones? I don't think so. Nope. I am semi-retired and have nothing else to be angry about. Ha 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 ha. You kids, get off my lawn.
I can think of many things he should be angrier about than eBay, but you know.
So it's eBay. Buyer beware. I mean, that's the bottom line with that. Is the thing with eBay is you have to pay attention you have to pay attention to the pricing. It's like buying a used car. Would you go buy a Tundra? Phil, would you go buy a 2018 Tundra for 2020 price?
Apples to apples? No.
same package and everything. Yeah, and you definitely sure wouldn't buy a T100.
Oh, we're going back to 1992 with that one.
You wouldn't buy a T100 for, the same price as a 2019 or a 2020 Tundra. No way. Now the question, if it's collectible, then it's worth more. And that could be the issue. But from looking at a lot of the stuff on eBay, there's a lot of stuff on there. Yeah, I think people were hitting the crack pipe before they priced this crap. Or they're counting on finding a sucker.
I would like to hedge that statement in one way.
Yes.
If the specific dies you are looking for are hard to find, not readily available, and you are desperate to have them, yes, they are absolutely worth more than you could otherwise buy them for brand new. It's supply and demand at that point. Like, there are certain dies that like RCBS advertises as having available, but it's basically on a made-to-order basis. And if you want them right now,
yep,
somebody else has them for like $60-$70, but you can get them for $30 if you wait a couple of months. Guess what?
Yep,
you're going to sacrifice money for time. That's the only thing I'll use to hedge that bet is that if it's something you cannot purchase readily, and somebody on eBay has it, yeah, it's worth whatever you're willing to pay for it.
Exactly.
The other caveat to that is, Mike, you mentioned the word collectible. Collectible items are only worth extra money to collectors.
Right.
I wouldn't give you a dime for a set of 270 Winchester dies, because I got a set out there in the garage I haven't used for a couple years, and it's like they're just RCBS standard dies. They're not collectible.
Right.
And the other problem is things aren't usually collectible if you can go buy virtually the exact same thing today. And
Yep.
therein begins to lie the problem with dies. I mean, I inherited a couple sets of dies my father bought back in the mid-'70s. One set I actually still use on a regular basis.
Mhm.
But when I got those dies, they did not match the way the current dies are assembled. Like the decapping stage was actually happening on the second stage, and the sizing was happening by itself without decapping. Don't ask me why, but that's the way they did it 40 years ago. I wasn't aware of this until I did some digging into it. And when I called RCBS, they happily sent me all the parts I needed to update these old die bodies to the new way or the new method. But if you want something like that if you go buy dies off the shelf today, they're not going to come the way they were 40 years ago. Or if you want something special or something with some historical provenance to it, yeah, you're going to pay extra. But I've still got all the parts I need to put those old 38 special dies right back to the way I got them. And they're vintage 1976, I want to say.
Well, that in and of itself, Phil, kills the collector value. 38 special, that's not exactly what I call a rare cartridge.
No, but like I said, if you wanted those extra little parts that make it as it was sold 40 years ago, because it's not the exact same as it is today. If it was something like that where you were looking at from like a collectability standpoint, or like the box that Mike showed off earlier, which is a very old box of ammunition that you can't just go get that off the store shelf anymore. When it becomes something you cannot readily purchase, yes, the price will go up for the right person. Although
it goes right back to what I said. Collectible items are only worth extra money to collectors.
Well, in the end, nothing is worth anything except what somebody will pay for it.
Amen.
Yep. So.
The next question, I guess.
Last one, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yes, it is. All right. So this was Reloading Podcast Group on Mimi. David posted. Gentlemen and ladies.
He's talking to you, Phil.
Hang on a second.
You want me to read it, Mike?
Yeah, go ahead.
David posted in a Reloading podcast group on MeWe. Gentlemen and ladies, I'm about to embark on what may be a long-term test and would like to know the group's opinions on some of my methods. I am specifically testing how many times Starline brass can be reloaded. I will be reloading and firing the cases till they fail or become unsafe to use. I am sure I will have several questions and posts as I flesh this out, so please bear with me. I have 100 pieces of brand new Starline 44 Magnum brass. I contacted them to ask how to be sure to get brass from one lot for testing, and Starline actually sent this brass for free. I have access to laser marking machine and will be marking each case from 1 to 100 on the head stamp area. This should have no effect on the life of the brass, as the marking barely penetrates the brass. I will be breaking these down into 8 lots of 12 cases each. My questions are as follows. Should I fire the brass in the same order each time or randomize them each firing cycle? Question 2. Do you think there will be any appreciable difference between the heat generated on the first versus the last round as it relates to brass life? I'm sure there will be lots of questions and hopefully some good discussion, so fire away. Personally, David, I'd favor, if you listen to the podcast, well, you're in the podcast group, you listen to the podcast. I personally favor the idea of keeping your cases in numerical sequence. You can either go up or down, it doesn't matter, but keep them the same. This is the way you get precision. If you randomize it, you're mixing a case that might only last for 8 firings as opposed to a case that might last for 20 firings. The other thing is, too, David, your case life will vary on how much powder you put in that case and how much pressure you generate behind bullets. If you shoot a heavy for caliber bullet, you're probably going to wind up with a little bit more pressure than you will if you shoot a light for caliber bullet. These are variables that you need to take into account. Yes, you can eliminate the variables by shooting the same load each and every time and the same bullet, but these are variables that you haven't really considered, or at least you haven't written into your question.
So, Jim, how much of an issue do you think is going to be versus, let's say, how many firings he gets versus like the work hardening of his brass, like from the resizing? You know what I'm getting at? How much do you think the resizing is going to actually?
I knew you were going to go there, Travis. I knew you were going to find a way to get into annealing. Good job, buddy.
Well, I'm just picturing fired resizing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing you're gonna almost work harden the brass.
Absolutely.
And get a crack before actually the firings of the brass is gonna cause an issue.
Well,
like how many? I know. Do you shoot? What does he shoot in a 44?
44 Magnum.
Do you shoot a 44 mag? I know Jason does. Do you, Jim?
Yep, I got one.
How many firings do you feel like you get out of your cases? I'm sure you still have some brass you've had for years and years, right?
I have never lost a case out of the 44 Magnum because I don't particularly like to shoot the damn thing. By lost, I mean physically split or whatever. Case mouth crack, wall split, either one. I can't say, honestly, I have never had one fail on me because I probably haven't fired them more than 3 or 4 times.
Well, I shoot my 357 a fair bit, and I've had cases. I've had a couple of split necks. I've had one where the brass split all the way lengthwise down the side from neck to case head.
It's what I call a wall split.
Yeah. And that's literally what it looked like. But
and I'm guessing that came from the brass being overworked.
Probably. I mean, most of what I'm shooting at the 357 is all range brass anyway, so it's not a match set. There's no real way to determine how many firings are on or anything else. I mean, a lot of it comes from an indoor range, so it's reasonable to expect a lot. Most of it's only been shot a couple of times.
One of the things I've noticed, this may not relate to David's question. One of the things I've noticed is it seems like nickel cases tend to split a little bit sooner than brass cases.
That's been my
I've
experience.
got
as well.
some Midway brass that I've had for decades, and it's unplated brass. It's not nickel plated at all, and I still use the stuff. And some of the RP stuff that I got that has nickel on it, it seems like it's harder. Well, it is harder because the nickel plating itself is harder, and I could feel that in the handle when I resize the case.
Mhm.
I'm thinking this guy is going to be testing this lot of brass for quite a while. I do like your idea, Jim, of going, don't be just randomizing, keep everything kind of standardized, make sure you do the same load, because as soon as you throw off, you add more powder or take away, you've kind of thrown everything out the window. You basically got to have the exact same load, exact same reloading process. But I'm going to guess either he's going to lose primer pockets at some point to loosening, or just going to work hard on that from oversizing it, and he's going to start cracking. But I'm going to bet he's going to get over 20. I'm going to guess, my personal guess is over 20 loads before
Depending upon the load. If it's a mild load, yeah, he could get that much. But if he's shooting max loads, I'll bet he doesn't get 5.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. You'd almost have to go with like a medium load if you want to be more.
Yep.
Because if you go a hot load, you're kind of cheating it to almost 2 cause failures. If you go on the low end, you're cheating it to extend that. So almost going right in the middle is kind of more fair way to do it.
Well, what we're talking about, guys, is we'll call it a mid-range load. We're talking a range between 15 and 20 grains of powder. Mid-range would be 17 and a half grains.
Well, but to directly answer the question, at least the way I read this, and y'all tell me if I'm just completely running off in the wrong direction, but I almost read this like he's talking about segregating this brass into 8 lots of 12 cases each, and I'm assuming that his question was within a lot of brass, should he shoot 1 through 12 every time, or just randomly toss them into the cylinders? Like, was it going to matter? Was there going to be any additional stress imparted to the 6th shot in every cylinder versus the first? Because I think that's why he's asking about heat generated, and I don't think that's a big concern because the cylinder itself is a big chunk of steel. It's a heat sink.
Yeah, it's not going to get any hotter than the firing of the case experiences on its own. So,
yeah. Now, what I do wonder, and this might be just like little minutia, I do wonder if maybe cumulatively there'd be a stress buildup because the 6th round in that cylinder is going to get hammered on 5 times before it gets fired, and it's going to get hammered on 5 times, having that heavy 240, 255 grain bullet in the front of it. Maybe.
Well, here we go. Let's go down that rabbit hole even further, Phil. What if he were to use the same chamber of the cylinder each time?
So
or
you only
better still, it's more safe would be to use a lever action rifle, and that way you've only got 1 chamber.
Or like a single shot Ruger chambered in 44 Magnum.
Yep.
Same thing. I mean, honestly, though, to y'all's point about whether or not he should use a mid-range load or a heavy load, because we recognize and admit that that's going to have some effect on the brass life. I almost look at it the other way around of if you've got 100 pieces of brass and you're going to segregate them into 8 different batches of 12, you have plenty enough brass to do a test load with a max charge and say a middle of the road charge. And then let the numbers dictate how much does it really hurt the brass or shorten the brass life to shoot that max charge. I mean, common sense tells us that there's going to be an effect, but is it going to be notable? Is it going to be the difference between 10 loads and 8, or is it going to be the difference between 10 and 2? I mean,
I would rather see that test, what you're talking about, than just shooting all 100 over and over again.
Yeah.
I like your idea. Go light, middle, and heavy and see which one, how many loads you get out of each one and see where that.
And that might also illustrate different failure modes because, I mean, we can reasonably expect, based on our group experience, that if he was to shoot a middle of the range load over and over and over, he's going to work hard in his brass and probably bust a neck or maybe loosen up a primer pocket before he does any other damage to the brass. That's just from repetitive work, working of the brass and machining, not machining it, but resizing it and then expanding it again. But what if at that max charge, he dimensionally alters brass in another way before the neck splits? I guess what I'm saying is that by running 2 parallel tests with different charge weights, you have the ability to glean more data from the same test. You could very possibly illustrate 2 totally different failure points. You could make at least some inferences about how much do we shorten the brass life with this hotter charge. If you really want to be neurotic, you could look at the difference between loading like a 280-something grain bullet versus a 240-something grain bullet. I mean, you can get as nerdy about this as you want, and I encourage nerdiness because I love that stuff. But I mean,
he's got 100 pieces of brass. Yeah, he's got plenty to do these tests with. But we do have a good friend and someone we've had on as a guest who shoots a lot of 44 mag.
And who would that be?
That would be Loads of Bacon. He would be a good one to ask how many loads he gets out of his brass. If you remember, he talked about 4 or 5 different 44 mag pistols that he has, and he loves that's his preferred cartridge. I bet you he would be a good one to ask how many loads he's getting off of his stuff. It's a straight wall cartridge. I can't see. I think this guy's going to get a lot of loads off of this. If we're talking a bottleneck cartridge, that's completely different. But I think this guy's going to get tired of this test before he starts losing his brass.
Well, I don't know about that. But if he does the test, just the incremental test that you guys are talking about, in the max loads, he'll see his stuff go splitting first. Yes, Phil.
Crimp.
Oh God! Now you add it to the rabbit hole.
Well, okay, but my point, that's what we're talking about, though, is adding to the rabbit hole. Why not? Right. Why not then within each lane of moderate load and max load, experiment with a heavy crimp versus a lighter crimp? Because I can guarantee you the heavier crimp's going to work the necks a lot more. You're going to be at a greater risk of splitting the neck, and not only because you crimp the neck down, but because the bullet blows it back out when it pops free. You're going to be working the brass twice as much every single shot. I mean,
if you're going to create ammo within reason, commonsensical ammo within reason, you're going to have to crimp it because for one thing, you get bullet pull.
Yep.
If you don't, I've done it myself in my Super Blackhawk.
Although I'm going to make an armchair prediction because I was reading through a lot of the comments in the chat, and I tend to agree with a fair number of them. I think because we're dealing with a straight wall cartridge ostensibly fired out of a revolver, I'm going to go ahead and guess that the brass life will actually be fairly reasonable, even with really hot charges. Only because you're not extracting the brass under pressure, you're not moving the brass under pressure, you're not feeding it in and out under recoil. You're sticking it in by hand, firing it while it's stationary, and extracting it mechanically after there's zero pressure in the cartridge. So I think the brass life is actually, just me spitting it out there, I don't think the brass life is going to be dramatically shortened with a hot charge. I would love to see the data tell me that or disprove it, but that's my suspicion.
Well, David's in a perfect position to do that. Go ahead, Phil.
I kind of wish this test was being rerun with something like 5.56 Avon AR. Because when you get into, but hear me out, when you get into bottleneck cartridges, like all these variables change. Now you're talking about how many fires can we get before case head separation sets in. And now we're talking about a situation where the headspace of the individual rifle comes into play. I don't know. I'm nerd now.
Brass stretches and you got to trim it. So, and then you got that neck. It's going to get work hardened. You're going to get cracks, and you're going to stretch that brass out, and you're going to get cracks down at the head. And yeah, Travis, this is all giving me a headache. This is all too OCD for me. These are tests I would hate to be dealing with.
But you know what, Travis? You opened up a can of worms when you got me talking about annealing. I've actually annealed some brass. I didn't say anything earlier when you were talking about your anti-annealer, but I did say that this week I actually annealed some brass. I annealed a full blue Maxwell House coffee can full of 308 brass in 27 minutes.
Awesome. So how'd it go? How'd you like it?
Well, I like the control I have because I can control it with the flame, the intensity of the flame, and I can control it with the timer. The faster the thing rotates and drops out, the less heat it gets. The slower I go, it gives me a really, really fine control. But what I really like is the way that I can control the migration of the discoloration. You know, you heat up the neck, and of course, the hotter the case gets, the color migrates. Well, I was actually able to color it or control it so finely that I had the color migration change stop at the intersection of the body and the shoulder. Now, you do want the neck to be, softened up quite a bit, annealed or whatever you want to call it, but which means that pretty much is a done deal. It's going to pick up whatever color you can give it. But I didn't want any heat to get down to the body for obvious reasons. We got to keep that soft. We got to keep that strong and tight. Go ahead.
Have you resized it?
No, that I have not. I just did this test yesterday. I'm actually going to go through and anneal all that 7.62 machine gun brass I have, get it all in the same condition. And then once I get all done with that, I'll tumble this brass to remove the discoloration because that doesn't look good. I reloaded a bunch of dirty ammo the other day, but I did that to show that you don't have to have a tumbler just to reload. It's just merely a nice feature. We all have one. Sooner or later, we spend the money, the $100 or $150 or $200 or whatever it takes to get one, but you don't have to have one. That's why I did it. I was trying to take and cater to the new reloader. And some of that stuff is pretty scruffy looking. But you know what? It's funny. A red shop rag goes a long way to cleaning that brass up. Are we done beating on that dead horse?
I think it's glue.
Okay.
And
that's all we have, and we've already lost 2 hosts. I'll give Mike a call, let him dial in, and hang up on the YouTube. Let's see. You guys probably have better bandwidth than I do. Travis, anything we need to address in the chat, YouTube chat?
Not that I can see. You guys got any shout outs?
Not a shout out, but we have a giveaway to announce.
Oh, let's hear it.
Let's do it.
Well, I mentioned a while back that I have a handful of promo codes to hand out for Audible audiobook copies of American Insurgent. And in 25 minutes now at 9 p.m. Central, there's going to be a post that's going to go up on my author page on Facebook. That's Facebook.com/author Phil Rabb. Phil Rabb author. I suck at remembering that.
Author Phil Rabelais.
No, it's just author. It's just Phil Rabb author because nobody can spell Rabelais unless they happen to be from this part of the country. But if y'all head over to Facebook, you search for Phil Rabb author. There will be a post there. All you have to do is like the post and then comment where you first heard about American Insurgent, and you're entered. Now, I'm going to give away at least 1 promo code. I told Mike, depending on how many entries we get, I might give away 2, 3, 4. It really just depends. I mean, if we end up with some crazy 100 people enter, I'm not going to give away just 1.
Yeah, let's get out there and really make Phil give away as many as possible. Let's take money out of his pocket, guys. This is a good deal for all of us illiterate people out there. He's giving us an Audible version, so let's get on this. Yeah,
now that's the only hitch. It is on Audible, so you have to redeem it there. There will be instructions on how to redeem it. I'll deal with all that on the back end, but it'll run from 9 p.m. this evening Central to 9 p.m. next Monday Central Time. And at that point, I'll make a determination on how many I'm giving away and draw the names and get all that dealt with.
Nice.
Other than that,
Well, I don't remember how long we're running the other giveaway for the FW Arms die set, but I know it's still going. So you need to get over to Facebook, Instagram, and MeWe, and all you have the on Facebook it is the Reloading Podcast. What is it? Page?
Yes.
The page, and you have to post hashtag FW Arms in all three of those platforms. You don't have to put them in all three. You can put FW Arms in those platforms to be entered. So you could technically put one in Facebook, MeWe, and Instagram, and I guess that's 3 entries.
That's right. And it's exactly right. It's the Reloading Podcast page, the Reloading Podcast. Okay, that would be on Facebook. The Reloading Podcast Facebook group, the Reloading Podcast MeWe group. There is no Reloading Podcast page on MeWe. We haven't put it up yet.
I know some people who have won have actually received their dice sets already. So get out there and enter for those dies, and then get out there and enter for that Audible book from Phil. Other than that, I guess we're ready to sign off, right, guys?
yeah, I'd say so, guys. Now that y'all thoroughly exposed my nerdism.
Did a good job. I didn't know you knew such big old fancy words, and I've read your book.
Yeah, I like on your book, Phil, how the last 5 pages are just blank, so you can, and it comes with a couple 3-pack of crayons, so you can draw your own pictures in there. That was a nice touch. I like that.
We don't include crayons with the book because I was afraid that my Marine Corps brothers might snack on them.
Oh, you guys are savage tonight. I love it.
And the Air Force guys can't color inside the lines.
You're going to have to do better than that. We aim high.
The problem is you don't hit high.
I've heard that before. Well. All right.
All right, guys. Well, get out there and try some annealing. Phil?
Oh, I am all screwed up by the fact that we're missing 2 hosts.
Buy it cheap.
Buy it cheap and stack it deep, everybody.
Take someone shooting. That's the most important thing you could do. You want to support the Second Amendment. Teach people how much fun shooting can be. And do it safely.
Bye.
Bye.
Hang up, guys. I'm going to hang up too. And I'll get Michael be the only one left. And he'll have to close the YouTube channel.
Yep. Good night, everybody.
Good night.